All right. Yeah, this one takes some time. So slow down with me, because if you rush this, you miss what's actually happening underneath the laughter. On the surface, this looks like a funny clip. A White House advisor fumbling through math like a kid caught without notes. People turning it into memes. Christmas jokes, elf jokes, PowerPoint jokes. But if you step back and really trace the mechanics, what you're watching isn't comedy. It's institutional failure playing out live on camera in real time. And that's what makes it dangerous. Kevin Hassett isn't just some random guy who wandered onto a cable news set. He's introduced as the chair of the National Economic Council. That title matters. Or at least it used to. The National Economic Council exists to coordinate economic policy, align data across agencies, and advise the president using real numbers, real models, real constraints. It's supposed to be boring, dry, grounded. If it's doing its job, you shouldn't even notice it. Instead, here we are.
Because some of them were just mathematically impossible. You cut something by 100%, the cost goes down to zero. If you cut it by 4, 5, or 600%, the drug companies are actually paying you to take their product. So it raises the question, how much of last night's speech was hyperbole and how much was fact?
No, what he's saying is you bring it, if a drug was $100 and you bring the drug down to $13, right? If you're looking at it from $13, it's down seven times.
It's not a 600%.
Well, but it's 700% higher price before. It's down 700% now, right? So a $13 would have to go up 700% to get back to the old one. So it all depends on when you look at it. You could say it's down 87%, or you could say it would have to go up 700% to be the same one. So it just depends on what you look at it.
Not politically, mathematically, and math is unforgiving. You don't get to negotiate with it. You don't get to spin it. You don't get to say, well, from another angle, oh, yeah, so a 100% reduction means zero. That's it. There's no further movement available in that direction. So when Trump said what he said, it wasn't exaggeration. It wasn't hyperbole. It wasn't even a misunderstanding. It was fabrication. And the real story begins after the lie is told. Because lies at that level don't survive on their own. They need infrastructure. That's where people like Hassett come in. His job in that moment wasn't to explain policy.
Why the need to constantly sort of exaggerate? Gas prices are $3, they're not $2.50. You know, the idea of suggesting that I think a lot of the impact of inflation. Yes, some progress made, but not as much as he says. Why not just present American people and say, hey, look, these are the facts. I can understand how you feel. Why the need to exaggerate?
You know, I'd have to go back and look at the specific language, but I hate coming back with questions for you guys, but the president, in order to make sure that everybody understood the facts and the facts were documented, spent a lot of time with us, with our team, preparing slides that showed the data for what he was talking about in the speech. And in some networks, while he was speaking, they showed the slides, and in some networks they didn't. And I just thought that was kind of unusual. I was expecting, when I was flipping around, to just see the slides everywhere. Gosh, we spent so much more time on them. But I think that the president had documentation for the facts that he was saying. They were in the slides.
Public reporting from Reuters, the Associated Press, and health policy analysts shows that insulin price caps came later, driven by congressional action, state-level regulation, and sustained public pressure. Drug companies resisted. The administration sided with them more often than not. So instead of pointing to results, he points to slides. That detail matters more than people realize. Because when someone defends a speech by referencing slides no one saw, what they're really saying is this: trust us. The evidence exists somewhere. You just didn't see it. That's not governance. That's faith-based administration. And when Nicole Wallace laughs, she's not laughing because she thinks it's silly.
The slides would have explained my incoherent boss. It's not the flex that he thinks it is. And in 6 years, nobody ever ran the fact sheet for any speech that any politician I ever worked for ever gave. What? He lies, but you got to read the fact sheet?
I'm not sure what the nation was missing last night was a PowerPoint. That wouldn't have made things any better. Look, you can't tell people how to feel. As I mentioned, people feel anxious. I think we're in a generational moment of economic anxiety that requires solutions. And here's the real problem. We can argue over where real growth is, where wages are, where employment is. The fact is people are screaming for change and for solutions, and Donald Trump doesn't have solutions that can fit. Look, you and I took a similar journey through the Republican Party when we at least understood there was some role for government. That was the less government era. After an era of no government and government's the enemy, here's the problem for Republicans. I am more convinced than ever, two values. The economy should work for everybody, absolutely everybody. That doesn't mean we condemn success, but we got to fight to make sure the economy works for everyone. The second is that government can be used to improve people's lives. Access to health care, access to public education, investments in public education, clean air, clean water, access to housing, affordable rents, and so forth. Those are functions of a government. But this Republican Party and Donald Trump are the party of Doge, and they're attacking it. And so where does that lead us now? Look, I'm looking way past Washington on this healthcare crisis right now. I don't trust Washington is going to work it out. And even if they do, simply extending the subsidies is not going to allow healthcare for millions of Floridians.
They indicate a system that no longer prioritizes truth, but survival. And survival mode governance is corrosive because once leaders stop believing truth matters, institutions lose their anchor. Economic policy becomes storytelling. Regulation becomes theater. Data becomes optional. And people feel that instability instinctively. That's why the panel pivots to something deeper. They talk about generational anxiety, about the idea that the economy should work for everyone, about government as a tool, not an enemy. These aren't partisan talking points. They're acknowledgments of reality. Every advanced economy uses government to correct market failures. Healthcare, education, infrastructure, environmental protection. The question isn't whether government exists, it's whether it functions. And what Trump's approach reveals is not a philosophy of small government, but a hostility toward competence itself. If institutions are seen as obstacles rather than tools, the goal becomes dismantling rather than improving. That's what scares people. Because dismantling is easy, building is hard. And once dismantled, the systems don't snap back. Healthcare doesn't magically reappear. Trust doesn't regenerate overnight. Economic stability doesn't return because someone says it will. The only question is how much damage happens before the correction arrives. So, yeah, laugh if you need to. Laughter is human. It's relief. But don't mistake laughter for harmlessness. What you're watching is a system revealing its weaknesses. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. If you care about competence, about truth, about systems that actually work instead of perform, pay attention. Share this, talk about it, because calling out nonsense early is how collapse is prevented. And ignoring it is how it accelerates. Would you like me to adjust any of the other timing tags or format this for a specific teleprompter style?